Welcome back. Well, NewsNation continues our in-depth border coverage. Hundreds of migrants still being dropped off, mostly in sanctuary cities. And take a look. So far, Washington, D.C., for example, has received more than 10,000 migrants. New York City, 2,200. And in Chicago, more than 300 migrants so far. These numbers, though, of course, keep growing. More controversy we are tracking as dozens of migrants arriving unannounced in Massachusetts on the island of Martha's Vineyard. Now, migrants arrived this week at the popular vacation spot for the wealthy, chartered by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And meantime, Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered 2 buses of more than 100 migrants dropped off at the gate to the Naval Observatory. And that is Vice President Kamala Harris's official residence in Washington. It is nowhere near the train station where other buses have arrived, and city officials say this did catch them by surprise. So this is our first topic today on our Rush Hour Roundtable. I want to introduce you to today's panel. With us today, we have Dr. Nichole Berlie, moderator of A More Perfect Union podcast. We have Megan Basham, reporter for the Daily Wire. Jason Rantz, host of the Jason Rantz Show on KTTH. And finally, Angela Senadella, attorney and legal analyst and TikTok's premier legal voice. It is great to see you. And panel, I want to ask, does busing and flying migrants to Martha's Vineyard and Vice President Kamala Harris's house as well, does it go too far? Is all of this just political theater? I want to start with you, Jason.
It's a political stunt, but it's one that has a reason behind it. This administration pretends that there's not an issue at the border. The media, generally speaking, has not been covering this with any kind of critical lens. And so what effectively has happened here is Governors DeSantis and Abbott have basically made this an actual story. And by the way, in the process, they're calling out the hypocrisy of it all. When it is a red state, small city, all of a sudden, it's not really an issue, that we're supposed to pretend that they are not having a crisis there. And yet, when we send them to Martha's Vineyard, oh no, all of a sudden people say, well, all these white progressives don't really want brown neighbors, despite telling us, by the way, over and over and over again, that they are a sanctuary city within a sanctuary state. You asked for this, you wanted it, and now you have it.
Well, Dr. Corte, I see your brow a little furrowed there. What are your thoughts?
You know, I was just vacationing in Martha's Vineyard. I'm not wealthy, nor are many of my friends, but it is a part of the country that historically African Americans have vacationed in for generations. A place where we felt that we could feel free and let our hair down and be in community with each other. And so, it's deeply concerning that these migrants were sent not just to Martha's Vineyard, but to the vice president's doorstep and to cities across the country. I mean, if Greg Abbott and Governor DeSantis were serious about solving this problem, there's something called the National Governors Association. There's something called the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And there are other organizations that are organized to bring leaders together to develop solutions. There's something about this that is void of humanity, and using folks as political pawns, dare I say, traumatizing, migrants in this way, making it into a public spectacle, is beneath the dignity of their offices.
Well, Megan, I see you smiling there.
I'm not quite sure why it would be traumatizing to take a visit to Martha's Vineyard when, as we just heard, people vacation there and it's a lovely place to go. I tell you what is traumatizing, though, is coming across the border, being brought there by coyotes. We're seeing human trafficking. You're coming along with fentanyl, drugs, seeing rape, you're seeing deaths. That's some pretty traumatizing stuff. I don't think taking a nice air-conditioned ride to Martha's Vineyard or any of these other cities is particularly traumatizing. And yes, I would say this is a symbolic act because what we're seeing is governors who have gone unheard. They've gone unheard as millions of illegal aliens have come across the border. They certainly don't have the resources to deal with all of them. Their states are not equipped for this. We're talking about very small cities who do not have the resources to house all of these people. And in some of these cases, you're seeing the mayors of much larger cities complaining that they don't have the resources. Well, how do you think Brownsville, Texas is going to handle it then? So part of what I see here is, we've heard things like, well, a riot is the language of the unheard. Well, I would say this act on the part of red state governors is the act of the unheard. They have tried. And what they have heard from Kamala Harris, from President Biden, frankly, are lies. They're saying that the border is secure. The border is not secure. And the fact that we have these illegal migrants here to ship them somewhere else in the country tells us that it's not true.
Natasha, I'm torn on this one. I'm split. So I fully understand how it could be traumatizing, not because Martha's Vineyard is a bad place, but because allegedly they lied to these migrants and they told them there would be jobs at the end of this journey, that they were going to New York City. They didn't even tell them when they were going. So when the claims are that this was a voluntary trip, that is something to be contested. At the same time, I don't think it's fair that a city like El Paso takes all the heat and that they have to be responsible for the policies of an entire nation. So I think the busing is okay, but I don't think we should be treating the migrants as cattle and just lying to them and thinking that we're so lucky to be here that they just show up anyway.
Angela, I appreciate that perspective. Tony, I want to get over to you in one moment, but I just want to pick up on that point for a second and add more context. You know, we were speaking to one migrant from Venezuela who ended up at Martha's Vineyard, and he told reporters that he was surprised that he was brought to a Massachusetts island. Let's bring this up. This is what he had to say.
We didn't know we were coming here. We were not aware. I wanted to live in Washington, but it didn't work out the way I wanted. And God put me here for a reason. We're going to fly to Boston.
So is it more humane to send migrants to Martha's Vineyard, far away from immigration offices potentially, or have them stay in overrun shelters at the border? Should we be sharing the responsibility to care for migrants? And I'm sorry I misspoke earlier. Jason, I want to bring you in here.
Yeah, I would say that we should be securing our border so they're not coming into this country illegally, so we're not put in this position to try to figure out what to do with 8,000 logged migrants a day coming into this country. That's not fair to put on any city. But the fact of the matter is, as Megan pointed out, we've been doing this to small cities and large cities in red states, and no one has said anything. No one has shown any concern from this White House. And by the way, because you mentioned El Paso, I think this is important. El Paso is a Democrat-run city. Why is it that El Paso is actually getting a pass from some of the criticism of using these people, using migrants as human props? We're not hearing anyone call them out. We're hearing people call out Greg Abbott, and we're hearing people call out Ron DeSantis. But somehow El Paso leadership gets a pass because this is purely political on the left. They didn't seem to mind until it impacted them directly.
I do want to pick up on, please, Dr. Corte.
I actually don't think that's the case. And we've seen Governor Gavin Newsom of my home state of California. We've seen Governor Hochul of New York and the press talk about how these states have some of the largest populations of migrants, and they're not sending them to other states. And so this idea that this is uniquely a Texas issue or uniquely an issue in Florida couldn't be further from the truth. Look, part of what we're seeing is we're less than 60 days away from a midterm election. This is a political stunt. And we're seeing another example of when Republicans are in power, they're using that power to create harm, to create trauma.
Is the border secure?
Whereas with Democrats,
is the border secure?
The power to actually help people and actually begin to solve.
Okay, they're helping a whole bunch of people by allowing them to make the dangerous track. I'm asking, is the border secure? Because the White House says it is. And so if the White House is saying that a border is secure when it very clearly is not, they are not helping anybody because they are actually ignoring the problem. And when you ignore the problem, it continues.
Also, this idea that they're just bringing it up in 60 days before an election is fairly ridiculous. They have been talking about it for 2 years now, pretty vociferously. They've been begging for help. They've been begging for the vice president, who was supposed to be in charge of this problem, to come down and take a look and to speak on it. She ran away from reporters. She wouldn't talk about it. The idea that this is just suddenly an issue now 60 days before an election is patently not true. They have been begging for help now for 2 years.
It's just a political stunt 60 days before an election. That's what it is.
Well, what should they do then to get the administration to respond to their concerns?
The Biden administration was sending migrants in planes overnight into various locations. And in some cases, they were doing it without even telling local officials. So was that a stunt? Was that treating them inhumane?
No,
or is it when Democrats do it to hurt red states?
That was Title 42 when Title 42 was in place. And by the way, Title 42 was put in place by President Trump and the Trump administration. And so
yes, and under the Trump administration, we had low levels.
The Biden administration could not come in and just automatically repeal that. As you know, there was a process. And so let's not mislead some of the viewers here to think otherwise.
We have historic numbers under Biden.
There are plenty of folks that come to our border that are seeking asylum. People come to our border for a whole lot of different reasons. And so it's important that we put a face on who these migrants are. And all we've been talking about is migrants being sent to Martha's Vineyard, being sent to the vice president's residence, and we haven't really centered their humanity. Who are they, and why have they come to our border in the first place?
This is certainly a nuanced and a meaty issue. I wish we had more time. I do want to turn the floor as a final wrap-up thought over to Angela with a legal perspective on this. Angela, I heard you trying to get in earlier. What did you want to say?
Well, my legal perspective is just that I do think that all people should be treated as people. If we look at our Constitution, it protects personhood. It's not based on citizenship. At the same time, I don't necessarily think there's everlasting trauma being in Martha's Vineyard, so long as these migrants are not lied to.
I hear you. Thank you, panel.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.